they give their opinion thinking that they own something. So when I have those problems, I normally block people because I'm like, you're a child. It's a grown folks conversation.
Some of us ain't fighters. Some of us is comedians. They were saying that was Chris Rock's punchback. It was like, yo, you gonna get these jokes. I can't beat you, Will Smith. So I'm and I was like, I felt like I had to feel that. I was just like, yo, that's how Chris. But there was some people on a group chat that was like, hey man, he went too far. Did you think Chris Rock went too far?
See, social media is crazy, right?
Okay.
Because here's the thing about social media. Social media have put ignorant people and kids at the table of grown folks' conversation.
Wow.
That's
Let me get at his credit. Let's hear that again.
Now, see, social media is crazy, right?
Okay.
Because here's the thing about social media. Social media have put ignorant people and kids at the table of grown folks' conversation.
That's important.
That's a real
It's important.
You know what I'm saying? See, when we was young and we got into grown folks' conversation, they shut up.
See, this is why I like TK. TK, this is the wisdom of being in the game since the 80s. Not many people can say that. They still around from the 1980s. Opening for legendary hip-hop acts, man. Man, this is the truth.
They give their opinion thinking that they own something. So when I have those problems, I normally block people because I'm like, you're a child. It's a grown folks conversation. Like,
grown folks
to even talk to someone, a kid to even talk to a 60-something-year-old man, it would have been disrespectful. Us growing, am I right or wrong? You'll get smacked.
You know what the problem is? TK doesn't look 60. You know what I'm saying? And then he's a comedian on top of that, so people want to chime in. But he's right, man. What happened to the respect we had for our elders? Like, never in your mind would you think of raising up on people who were older than you back in the day. There was a level of respect you had. You know what I mean? They had to really cross a line for you to have to say something to them, and you had to be an adult in the situation as well. There wasn't no kids running up on adults like that back then because they didn't play. A lot of what I think is this generation hasn't had enough consequences for making those moves, if you understand. They just think older doesn't mean wiser. You can't tell me nothing because you older than me. You'd be surprised.
To understand where we're coming, so they give their opinion thinking that they own something. So when I have those problems, I normally block people because I'm like, you're a child. It's a grown folks conversation. Like, to even talk to someone, a kid to even talk to a 60-something-year-old man, it would have been disrespectful. Us growing, am I right or wrong? You'll get
I had to block somebody. The dude just to hit me and said, hey man, y'all falling off. Y'all interviewing Chuck D. I said,
oh my God.
Like the kid didn't even know who Chuck D was. I'm sorry. That's how dumb you are. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
I'm just trying to make it point.
Chuck D,
Chuck
nigga?
D, word.
That's the type of nigga you find to go smack this nigga.
I blocked him immediately.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, nigga, Chuck D, nigga, you know who Chuck D is, nigga? And that's my point.
And then, let me tell you how dumb the conversation got. He was like,
you engaged this?
I had to. I had to. He's like, because he wasn't even a man in Public Enemy. And I just had to say, I said,
my children, y'all gotta teach your children. Like, there's so many people out here who education stops at Google, and then they don't even use that. You gotta make sure your children are prepared to go out into the world, because I think there's a lot of people that don't know anything and think they're deep. That's the problem. The internet has propped some people up who probably would have been a lot more humble with their intellect.
Oh man,
me, yo.
These kids, and that's how dumb these people are.
Yes,
so,
yes.
My point is, sometimes you don't even engage. But with like the Chris Rock and the Will Smith thing, like
he did what he was supposed to do
as a comedian.
If that's what made him feel better as a man.
Right.
So
if Will would have smacked you, would you have gave him jokes?
Here's the thing about life again.
Look at your face.
Everybody know ain't running up on me. So we know that. But see, the thing about both of them gentlemen, this is where it's confusing.
Right.
See, we love Will Smith.
Right. Absolutely.
We love Chris Rock.
Right.
So for that to happen, to
Legends.
put us at odds with each other, to even have this conversation, is embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like to talk about what he hit you, TK. It's embarrassing to say that to you, to say this about this young man who has allowed a young lady to throw him off a game, off a square, for what he has built his whole entire life.
Damn. There you have it. T to the K. This dude is a legend in so many ways. Like, it's weird because every time TK describes how long he's been in the game, you hear him talk about introducing other legends to the comedy game. And you're like, damn, when did he start? Well, the man is 61 years old. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't look it because, keeps himself in shape. And, he's living a good life. I only met him one time. He was solo dolo at the Comedy Cellar in New York. And he was sitting at this little table, I guess, waiting to go downstairs. I spoke to him and stopped him, shook his hand, and had a good conversation with him. Kind of similar to how I talked to Patrice O'Neal, if you saw in my other videos. You could tell how humble he was, you know what I mean? Like, he said, yeah, how you doing? I'm TK, like, cool brother for that short interaction, real cool brother. And as you can see, very knowledgeable. What happens if Will Smith jumps up on stage and smacks TK? It's a little different than what would happen if Chris Rock gets slapped by Will Smith. Chris Rock had to use his jokes, you know what I mean? TK got multiple options, you know what I'm saying? He got multiple options of what he's going to use. But, I think it's great what he's talking about here about the internet generation and how, everybody's kind of on a level playing field. I was watching an interview. I was just noticing how some people thought they were scoring points when they really weren't. And a lot of times, as men, especially in conversation with women, you'll be perceived in a different way. And it definitely seems like there's a generation break off. Now, it's not saying these men won't ever figure out how to mature to that next level and have the conversation in a way and actually not be emotional, not call anybody out of their name, not get tripped up by simple logic, because that's what I was noticing. But something about the internet and status and building a platform, as I've been building over these past few years, and you look to the right and to the left of you and you realize that these aren't necessarily your intellectual peers. In fact, some of them might just be good at this specific skill, but there's a lot of other skills that you acquire throughout life. TK is a perfect example of that. And you know what? People read people wrong. You know what I noticed about TK? He's kind of soft-spoken. You would never think that, but he's not a man you should play with. You want to know how I know? Because he survived. Like I told you, when I met him, humble, warm, funny. How many people you shouldn't mess with by himself? Like, not afraid. How many people do you know that are loud, boisterous, confrontational, all bark and no bite? They talk a good game. They ain't about that life. Don't take the kindness for weakness. You understand? That's why I like watching mob films. Like, did you ever watch like The Irishman? Russell Buffalino and Joe Pesci, the way he played Russell Buffalino was so perfect. Like, powerful, no need to turn up. You know what I mean? He has so much like inner strength. He was kind of soft-spoken. And there were times where he was sitting there with Harvey Keitel and they were grilling Robert De Niro. He was just like, it was very, very understated performance, but excellent nonetheless. TK is a perfect example of that. He's like basically the Forrest Gump of hip hop. You know what I mean? No disrespect, but he's been in so many pivotal moments. Like, the man was there when the night that Tupac got killed and the night that Biggie got killed. I mean, come on. That's ridiculous. But back to the point about the internet generations, and, normally we talk about dating on this channel and how things have changed, you got to think about the people that are participating in the market. They're different. They're different. Like, they don't necessarily have to have the skill to go and speak to a woman, but they have to know how to text her, or they have to know how the perfect sequence of how to get somebody's Instagram or, TikTok or whatever the kids are doing these days. But you know how big of a gap that leaves in your conversation skills, in your dealing with the opposite sex. It makes you socially awkward. If I had any advice, if I have any viewers that are under a certain age, I suggest you practice approaching women multiple times throughout the week. I mean, we used to have the pen and paper where you had to get ready. You had your little book so you could write all your numbers down. I remember being 16 years old and having a whole little piece of paper, I was kind of player about mine. I had something about a credit card layer thick, but it was magnetic on both sides, and it had a bunch of phone book lines in it. I had filled my phone book up with phone numbers by the age of 16. That is such a vital step that's just missed. We'll never get that back because it's just the nature of how communication has changed. So it takes an effort for you all to go out there and figure out how to do these things so that you are prepared, so that you can at least start off on the ground floor, you know what I mean? In social interaction, man. Oh, and the point about respecting your elders, man. There was a time you couldn't even come into the room if you were not on the level, if you were not either old enough or respected enough. And the fact is that I love my YouTube audience. Everybody has a comment now. Everybody has an opinion on what you should be doing or what you've done wrong, and a judgment. Now that's fine. It becomes more of a democratic society, but it doesn't mean that anybody has to respect it. People in this generation are going to learn that the hard way, because having an opinion is one thing. Having an opinion, everybody has those. Having an opinion is like having an asshole. Everybody's got one. But will your opinion be respected? Are you able to articulate your thoughts so that someone will take you seriously? Because I hear certain tones and my ears turn off. If I hear you're interviewing somebody and you want to grill them and get these points home, you haven't done the simple bit of research to understand what you're actually looking at, to understand what that means. But you've run off with a narrative that is false. And you see, what that is? That's hubris. That means you haven't taken the time enough to do the research to ask somebody who might be more knowledgeable than you, what does this mean? You understand that? The major thing that's different now is effort. At a certain time, you had to go into the library. It took you going to a physical location to find out what was going on, or look into an encyclopedia, pick up a heavy book and open it and turn the pages to figure out what it was. Now, everything's at a press of a finger, and nobody even wants to do that. That's misinformation. That's how you get in trouble. The job of the OGs to tell people that. It's the job of the OGs to correct wrong behavior. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification for all uploads. This is Faucette Media.